want to know what you all do with takes. Like, how many takes? Are you all like, I'll do 30 takes if that's what it takes?
What?
Or are you, like, do you just put it in the hands of three? One?
Yeah.
One? I mean,
It's got 4 cameras.
yeah.
That doesn't count.
Welcome to the Hollywood Reporter Directors Roundtable. We have a phenomenal group of filmmakers here with us today, so let's dive in. Ridley, when you have one of those days where you have the 12 cameras and the 500 extras and you're in the Coliseum, how do you let everybody know that you've begun? Simple as that.
At BBC, I did live drama where you have 6 cameras, and they're all joined by a wire, and you're on the air live with 13 million people watching. That was a big audience for me. There's a show called Z-Cars, and that's when I learned about the 6 multi-camera. And the problem is, at that point, BBC would pay me as a director £75 a week after tax, which is a little bit more than your breakfast this morning, right? And then one day somebody said to me, you want to do a commercial? And I caught the wave of incoming new thing called commercial advertising. And my first day of shooting, I escaped from BBC and snuck out, and they gave me £200 at the end of the day, so I knew there was something seriously wrong. So I left and did advertising for the next 20 years.
Well, talking about beginnings, does anybody have like a day one ritual, a thing that you do when you're starting out to set the mood?
Have a panic attack?
Yeah. I tried to, but I tested positive for COVID.
On day one?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, what did you do?
I want everyone to feel sorry for me. Everyone, please. Directed from a tent or from a trailer.
Yeah.
But we were fine. I just wanted to, cut the ice with some depressing, worst case scenario maybe for a production.
I mean, anybody else, things that you do on day one to help you kind of settle in?
I love to. It's embarrassing thing, but I love to listen to François Truffaut music of La Nuit Américaine before it's an old ritual.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Like in your
No. But it's like it's. I know you will laugh at me, Ridley. I'm embarrassed, but it's something that it's like since it's one of my when I was film student, and it's just the fire of cinema. I love that song.
Are you on headphones or is it like playing for the whole cast and crew?
No, for the crew, just for me.
Just for you. Just for you.
I don't know is it fast paced? What's the rhythm? What's the vibe of it?
I don't know. It's just like a kind of little melody that
Hum
plays.
it. Go on, hum it.
Huh?
Hum it. Sing it now. Go on.
I will not dare to do that, Sir Ridley Scott. Let's cut that out, okay? There will be some montage.
Coralie, what about you? Do you have a thing that you like to do when you begin?
Yeah, I always have a little thank you and good wishes for myself before I start shooting. And I like also to have a little word for everyone, like starting the journey, and because I know it's going to be a tough one usually. So yeah, I like to gather the crew and just have a little word to wish everyone a good shooting.
I feel like there's this idea that a director is always confident and in control. One of the things, Edward, that I like about your movie is it's about doubt. Your lead character is a cardinal who's going through sort of doubt. I think directors, like religious leaders, we assume have it all figured out. Is there room for doubt when you're a director? Are you allowed to have doubt?
Privately.
Privately, yeah.
You don't discuss that. And if you show any form of doubt with an actor who'll eat you alive, you can't let that happen. You've got to not let them get in. Are there any actors in here? I hope not.
Brady.
Formerly.
Do you agree? If the director looks a little anxious, does that bother you?
I mean, it's hard for me to say. I did it at such a young age, and I was working with extraordinary people. I was working with Michael Haneke and Lars von Trier, and I think that people always ask me, how that informed my own process and my own films, and I think that it just was very demystifying for me because I saw a lot of people that I admired very much that were having, real, crises that they were dealing with, and so I think that when I started to face a lot of my own, that I didn't worry about it too much. I don't do the job performatively. I don't think that much about how people perceive me. I'm mostly just trying to get it done.
But you have to turn up fully prepped here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
If you don't, then you're going to be truly anxious, because the actor will spot it in a heartbeat.
But you can have doubt and faith,
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be on thin ice, because then it means you're paying attention. There's nothing worse than getting a perfect script and everyone relaxes and then you put it together and somehow it's dull. But you get a script which needs a bit of work and everyone's paying attention. I wouldn't try this, by the way, but if the weaker the script doesn't mean it's the better the film, but everyone's really paying attention. Right? You can relax, everyone thinking you're having a great time, you're doing a great job, and you look at the film and it's boring, right?
Yeah.
If I have doubt, I can allow me to the space to say to everybody back off and just space to think and not freaked out about that. So
Do you shout?
very rarely, very rarely. Rarely,
I doubt-
but when
don't
I
see you as a
shout,
shouter.
no. But if I swear as a French Canadian, they know that they are in trouble. If I say tabarnak, then usually
Canadians
it's like,
get angry.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not. You? Do you shout?
Yeah, do you shout?
That said, all of this, it gets easier the older you get. Right now, I don't care about anything. I don't worry about anything I get. I'm fully relaxed. The film goes like lightning. But you go back to 30 years ago, I would walk in the morning and be very worried. Even though I'd prepared the hell out of it, I'd still be concerned about, because I learned about talking to actors last is the last thing I learned, because I didn't go to drama school, I didn't go to film school.
You were from art. Yeah.
I was a designer.
Yeah.
And one day at BBC, they said, do you want to do a director's course? I said, yes. 3 weeks later, I was given a script saying, there it is, don't fuck it up. That was it. I was on live. So I was terrified.
Edward, since it was your movie that provoked this question, where did you come down on the issue of doubt in directing?
I think it's absolutely fine. It's part of it. Yes, I mean, you need to be prepared. I can have it because I'm completely prepared. I know theoretically I have a total plan and I theoretically know what I'm doing. Then everything changes because actors come in and, other weather comes in and all these elements, and then you adapt to it and see something better, and then you go for it. And sometimes you don't know the answer right away. And then, like Denis says, then it's about taking space. And I think I've learned that people really respect that. They say, "Oh, great, he has a weakness," and that's fine. Let's give him space. Let's go away for 5 minutes or half an hour, and then
We are in trouble.
total trouble.
No.
So I think I love that.
Yeah,
And I feel like people want to help you out in a way. I mean, I saw this interview with Tom Hanks once where he said, like, Steven Spielberg has this thing. He comes in the morning and said, "Listen, guys, you got to help me. Like, I don't know, like, how to do this." Of course, he knows how to do it, but somehow. Yeah. But bring everyone in, make everyone feel they can do their best work.
Coralie, why did you decide horror was the genre that you were going to tell this story in?
To me, I wouldn't call it horror. I would call it more of genre film, which is to me very wide in the scope, going from sci-fi to action to everything that is not grounded into reality. And basically, that's how I grew up loving films. Everything that were allow me to escape real life, which I hated, which I felt totally unadapted to and very bored into. So, especially for that film and the previous one, that's really where I found my freedom and where I felt powerful and where I felt fully capable to express myself in a way that where there are no boundaries. Also where I love to go very much into the excess and kind of touch my part of craziness and things that I have to handle in my real everyday life. And especially for the theme of the movie, it felt totally relevant for it to be as excessive as what I wanted to say and make the audience feel that excess and feel that, craziness. So it's even not a question that I choose, it's just what I do. And that's the film I love, and I think I more choose the theme that are relevant to express into that genre. It's the kind of the other way around.
Did you ever see a film with John Frankenheimer, I think, did it called Seconds?
Yeah.
And I find it that it reminds me of that because it's really about a man who's obsessed with staying young. And the Denis story, in a bottom line, is obsessed with staying young, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Does anybody relate to what Coralie's saying about genre and about that being a way that they can access stories or ideas?
I do. I think. Have anyone made a documentary before?
Yes,
Quote unquote.
I did,
Yeah?
yeah.
No. Well, there's something about the documentary genre that it predisposes you to truth. Like when you go to watch a doc, you're like, I'm encountering truth. And that's not something that like people experience even when they're walking down the street. They're not like, that's true, that dog's true, that bird's true. And so it's interesting, was interesting in the first film I made, Hell County this evening, to situate a certain type of like black aesthetics, a certain type of like open poetic image in this space of truth. Because if someone approaches it with that, then when they see this image that's like strategically ambiguous, you don't really know what's happening, you're forced to sort of complete the image with your imagination, then you go out into the world and see the world with that same, hopefully, ambiguity, and you're sort of less absolutely judging people, for lack of a better way to say it.
So if anyone hasn't had the opportunity to see RaMell's movie Nickel Boys, it's shot from the point of view of the characters, like to the point where the actors are actually wearing cameras, is that right?
Yeah, they wear the cameras. It's not the most, maybe 10% of the times.
Okay.
But they are essentially camera operators.
Yeah.
There's like snorri cam rigs, right? Like
Yeah, there's a snorri cam rig for
the
David.
sequence in the bar. And
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's almost all of David's scenes, but the majority, like the primary idea is like, how do you make the camera an organ, bring it into your body, and kind of shoot from a personal poetics. So the first film I made in the South is, like I said, kind of like black poetics, like very atmospheric. And I wondered, like, when making this film, what if the two main characters had their own cameras to make their own Hell Counties, their own versions of first-person films? And that seems to be really interesting, specifically in a case in which it's based on a true story of the Dozier School for Boys, in which boys were just straight murdered in North Florida. It closed in 2011, started to exhume bodies in 2013. What an interesting idea to give life to those who lost it by allowing us to, vicariously see from their perspective.
What was that like for your actors to be, I think of actors know how to work with cameras when they're experiencing them in a certain way. It feels like that would be very different to have them, you're shooting what they're looking at.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's hindsight because, doing things like this, we articulate our films, I believe, to ourselves in our own ways. And then when we're asked tons and tons of questions, you're forced to excavate it and like really...
You're like, why did I do that exactly?
Yeah, well, never why, but
But
find
how?
new ways of expressing it to be more meaningful to other people because we know why it's meaningful to us. But to have to exchange the meaning to another person, like that communication language needs to be specific. It can't just be like, I wanted to make this film, So in the process of all of us sort of excavating why we were feeling the things we were feeling when we were filming, one thing the actor said, two things, and I'll be short. One was that like the exchange from ingenue to the audience through the camera lens and through the film medium was something that explored a version of like black love that she hadn't quite seen yet in cinema because traditionally when you're watching two characters, it's between them. And of course you get close with the camera, they're looking at each other. But the way in which some could argue a lot of discipline has been expressed in black families in cinema is through discipline. It's like, you guys come in, don't stay out late, like I love you, be safe. But to see the gaze from the grandmother to the boy, is something that just gives you access to something that's fundamentally human. But they had a issue, obviously, because the camera is not something that people traditionally feel comfortable with. And so they had to sort of convert the loneliness they felt by not being able to like really be tactile with people to the loneliness of the characters, which then gave them a way to really embody what they needed to. So they say.
Yeah, it's like the audience gets to be hugged by ingenue.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool a cool sensation.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like when day players would come in to work with you, because one thing with the principal actors who come in and like, you know, it becomes a sense memory thing where they start to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that it must have been incredibly challenging to show every single person in the movie the ropes. Like you are interfacing with the camera in a way that generally you're specifically told not to.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone here would have so much fun doing it, because then I'm like, treat the camera like a character. I want you to glance at the camera, and then they're just playing a different game. You know, they're actually more free to be on the playground than to be in a place in which the choreography is a little bit more traditional, I guess, for lack of a better
How much
word.
trial and error did you have of this to get this? This sounds incredibly. How long did you shoot for?
We had 33 days, but then we lost 4 to COVID, so it got squished down. But
Did you have any preamble to take each actor through what they're going to do before they hit the floor?
we didn't have time to
You
rehearse.
did it. Yeah.
No.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly short movie. It's so. I mean, you said it earlier. From the first frame on, you know you're in the hand of a great filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, like you watch it and you're like, oh, you know, and it's poetry. You know, the whole thing is poetry. It doesn't matter if a shot makes sense or it's too long. Like you just immediately, like the shot with the suit on the car.
Yeah.
You said earlier, it doesn't need to be in the movie. But it's a shot
everything.
I really remember. You
Yeah.
know, like,
It's
I really
each
remember.
shot is
and
like
it's poetry.
an IQ, like Japanese. It's a very an idea. Each shot is like a specific idea that like bricks. I love that.
And I love feeling when as an audience member, when you're in your movie, in all of our movies, I mean, I don't know if mine, but in all of your movies, I feel like,
yours.
I know that the people who made it, they take me by their hand and they direct me, not the actors only, but they direct me, like they sort of, I'm in your hands, and I hand myself over to your timing also, your sense of timing, or your sense of, especially yours also, you know, your sense of timing is like, you know, I love it going to a cinema and go, oh, okay, it's a different time count. I'm going to settle into Brady's world.
I just
and
love the
enjoy
feeling
this
of
now.
awe. Like I mean, we're talking about everyone's film, but I mean, you have a couple shots in your film that are, moments that are unfucking believable. Especially the opening that goes from the bottom of the ship to the top, and and I guess that's why it's the opening. But like, there's something about the immigrant experience that is expressed through that is just the most sweeping emotion or sentiment that I think I've seen. Like, I've never experienced anything.
It was so claustrophobic
Yeah.
until you find out the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
But before that, I was like, I was totally disoriented. To be honest, I didn't understand at first that I was in a boat. I thought I was like in some kind of, I didn't know he was brought to a torture chamber.
Like a camp. He's like cursing and stuff. It's like,
I was like suffocating. I was like, and when he came out, I felt like totally manipulated in a great way. But having been through an experience quite intense, right from the start.
But that's one of the nicest things is perspective, you know, as a director. Like I'm really in Adrian Brody's perspective, even though you have, it's very long evolving shots and so forth. I'm always with him and see it through. So I'm always with Timothy in your movie, you know, sort of seeing it through his eyes. And also, your perspective, of course, is very intense.
I grew up with an architect in my family. My uncle John Pfeiffer went to Taliesin West, which was Frank Lloyd Wright's school in Arizona. And while he went there, he lived with my mother and I, because I had a single mother and I was an only child. And so architecture was a part of my life from a very young age. But one thing that I think is very interesting about Frank Lloyd Wright is that, you know, all of the residences predominantly, you would enter not into a massive foyer, but into a space that is, 6 or 7 foot ceilings, a sort of antechamber that would really kind of force your perspective, because it was a place for you to hang up your coats and take off your shoes. And then, you would go up a very narrow corridor and then suddenly, pow, like there's the space. And there's something about, the dynamic is so powerful. And so I think that it's not something, I mean, this film happens to be about an architect, but for me, cinema is inherently architectural. I do think that you are guiding people through a space, like you really are sculpting in time.
Since we're talking about time, I'm curious how you all feel about the fact that people's attention spans are getting shorter when you work in a medium where you're making art that's 2 to 3 hours long. How do you grapple with your audience's ability to pay attention?
You try not to do 3 hours.
Or 4.
And every cut is always too long, and you know that, and you have to sit down and actually decide. You've got to decide if you're going to run for 3 hours, it better be worth it. It's what I call the bum ache factor. Audiences have a certain kind of tolerance of the
Oh,
bum.
bum ache, like
As soon
sitting
as
on
you
your
start
bum?
doing that, you're in trouble.
But there's the physical time and there's the mental time of a movie. And we all, I'm sure around this, we all saw 5 minutes short film that will last forever. We all saw 3 hours movie that went like that. It's about emotion. I think it's about the emotional impact of the film. If the audience lost track of the emotional path, then you're fucked. Yeah, so if I can say.
Like time dilates if you do it right.
But I think, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I think all the movies pretty much around the table were pretty what you call long, and I found it was also great to have movies that take their time to kind of present a world, present a universe, and also present things that are more radical. I'm thinking about yours, of course, which is like, more than 3 hours and a half with this information. I think it's also great to have things that are out of the regular format, because we have so many things that kind of look like also the same. Like, I like to see things that are different. And I'm not so sure about the audience having less attention time, because I think it really depends about, what you put them into and how you make their journey be immersive and be, as you were saying, like not feeling that time passes. And also think that it's also okay to sometimes be bored during a film. Like, you don't have to be all the time excited. There are moments that can go down, and I think what matters is what stays with you after the movie is finished. To me, at least.
I think I also don't know about the attention span. Maybe I'm an eternal optimist, but I think it'll swing the other way. And if you give the audience, if they're here, there's this guy, Brady Corbet. He made a movie that's almost 4 hours. Like, it's got an intermission. It's 70 millimeter. It somehow becomes, I gotta go see it, because it's like a spectacle. I don't get that on television. And I don't get your movie on television or yours, like I know immediately Dune Part 2, I saw 1, but I want to go see 2 because it's going to be another spectacle. I can only get it there. I really believe that, and then if the emotionality is right, it can be 2.5 hours or 4. It doesn't really matter. I think part of the selling point of your movie, of getting people to the theater, will be its length.
Yeah, I think the engine, you should be talking about the engine of the material, whether it's 4 hours or 2 hours.
Sure.
You better have in that engine the reason to want to go to the next step. That's called drama.
Yeah.
So you've either got to leave them with what's going to happen. You do not ever want anyone to be bored. In my world, no
absolutely.
way. So you've always got to leave, even though a scene is designed to be long, it better be interesting. So you're going to go, what's happening next? That's the fundamentals of theatre and film. You ain't got a movie.
I will say, though, I think that the fundamentals of theater and film need to adapt to the complexity of the times. I feel like the way in which...
But aren't people getting more and more simplistic? That's a challenge.
True.
I mean, everything you see
But we're also
now...
dumbing down the aesthetics to match.
Well, there's a big dumbing down. I'm not saying at this table there's any dumbing down whatsoever.
No.
But there's a lot of big dumbing down which is nothing to watch. In flash cut and some usual suspects mostly on the platforms on TV, and they're made to stream. And in a way, a funny kind of way, it's a pity because it's watering down what we're trying to do.
Denis, there's such a huge and really remarkable cast in Dune. Can you talk a little bit about assembling the cast and what was important to you?
Oh, but frankly, I don't like that question because it's a boring. My answer will be boring. I mean, it's like they have specific characters that those characters have been beloved for 60 years. The book is well known. Those are big shoes to fill. So I just went through the actors that I felt that had the necessary charisma and that will bring the qualities I was looking for. And I went. Those movies are not easy to shoot. I mean, it's like no movie are easy to shoot, but we deal with tons of VFX. I need people that will show up on the day and know their job and give the performance needed, because it's the movie that I tried to do is it's sci-fi, but it's not really sci-fi. The science fiction is behind. So it's like in the backdrop. It's about the human interaction, the human drama between those characters. So I needed people that can focus on the day and deliver strong performances. That will be without that I would have no movie. So
we had Zendaya for our Actress Roundtable, and she talked about you were shooting. I think there was just 1 hour a day where you had the right light to shoot a particular sequence in the desert. Do you know the sequence that I'm talking about? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
But the thing is that I went a bit dogmatic with the light. We shot exclusively in the desert with the natural light, which meant that, and we didn't want to compromise aesthetically, so it meant that some scenes were shot over a week, every night at the end of that, between those 2 hours when going back there and doing the coverage, different coverage on and I put a lot of pressure on the actors, but my cinematographer, Greg Fraser, and I was in love with the idea to bring some kind of naturalism to the screen as much as possible, to feel close to nature, and it meant that actually we had to prep like anything I've done before. The way we did it is that there are some scenes, like the opening scenes, for instance, where there's a battle around a rock. Of course, it's not. That rock doesn't exist. It's like 12 different locations in Jordan, and we planned. Greg Fraser was scanning the rocks with the drones. Yeah, exactly. LiDAR and the drones, and then put that in computer to know on November 3rd at 9:45 if Denis wants the sun behind the actress when she smashed the head of the guy. The sun was going to be there at 9:45. So we have to plan, and all the shots were planned, and it was like a kind of puzzle to follow. That's what Zendaya was referring to. Like. It was a puzzle for the actors and for my first AD, but very rewarding in the camera. That's what
astronomy. You guys are doing astronomy.
Yeah. Totally.
Charting the stars.
What is crazy about that?
Second unit.
A crazy coincidence. There's the movie opened with an eclipse, and as I was shooting, there was an eclipse on the day, a real eclipse.
But you didn't know that was going to happen?
And no, I cannot say to the legendary, you know what, we're going to shot in Jordan in fall 2022, so because there will be an eclipse there. No, it's like it's a coincidence. It was not full, but we all put the camera on the sun and shot the eclipse on that day. Yeah.
How do you figure out what natural light is on another planet? Like, how do you give people a sense that we're looking at something natural, but it is alien?
Man, that's the thing, is that I was trying to bring the planet close to us. I wanted to bring, I tried the production design, I tried as much as possible that to cut the exotism. I tried to bring things like the ornithopters, those flying machines that are described like flying like birds. I tried to make them as close to helicopters as possible. I tried to bring the design close to us so the people will not question it. When my mother see the machine, say, oh, of course it flies. It sounds like a helicopter. It's just so we are not distracted by the technology. No exotism, no esoteric thing happening in front of camera, trying to bring that down close to Earth as much as possible.
You also almost create another planet with your lighting in the Conclave. Yeah.
That wasn't natural light?
Yeah, we shot in the Sistine Chapel. We blew it up.
Yeah, you guys one-to-one modeled the Sistine Chapel, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
I thought you shot inside.
Obviously can't shoot inside.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, usually we would say as a metaphor, I can't believe you built the Sistine Chapel, you built the Colosseum, but we actually have people here at this table who did those things with their crews.
Yeah, it's actually cheaper.
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you build the? Did you shoot in the Colosseum ever? No, huh? You can't.
You built
I
everything?
went to the Coliseum, my production designer, we stood in it, we both turned to each other and said, it's too small.
Whoa.
So my Coliseum is
Small
about
for-
10% bigger, because when you have a horse going full gallop, you've got to be able to rein in, not run into a wall, so you made 10% bigger. So we built 50% real, 4 full stories, 50%, and then digitally put the rest in. That's easy.
And Brady, you had the task of communicating that someone's a great architect. However, you had not a lot of money to do that. So how did you and your crew figure that out?
If the film had been about a more ornamental style of architecture, we would not have been able to do it at this budget level, because we built massive facades, real concrete, and then we just did very simple digital extensions, so that you had real texture, you have real light, real shadow, and it essentially is just a big cube. So it's kind of VFX 101. And I think that if we had been trying to create something that was much more detailed and a less minimalistic style of architecture, that it would have been a lot less successful of a trick. And then also, because the film was shot on VistaVision, and VistaVision's field of view is just immense. So you can be physically close to an object and you can see from the ground to the sky, even though you are, you don't have to back off of it. And that's the beauty of the format, is that it doesn't warp the object at all. It doesn't distort on the edges at all. It is, you really feel the impact of the architecture, and you feel it in Carrera too. The scale of those caves. And so I think that I just try to do everything as practically as possible. I've seen some photos of your set, and it's insane. That's like one of the greatest sets I think I've ever seen. I mean, the Colosseum's it's
still
really
cheaper.
incredible.
There's Colosseum and Rome and the palaces and 3 palaces and the Senate at
Where did you shoot?
Malta.
Okay.
Did you tear it down? Did you leave it?
No, well, yeah. You really want to hear that? Okay.
I mean,
No, I did a big film called Kingdom of Heaven years ago in Ouarzazate. And to take it down would have cost me $300,000. So I said to the Ouarzazatis, do you want to buy it?
Yeah.
I'll sell it you for $10, but you have to take on all the responsibility for insurance. So I sold it for $10 and they would take it over. 15 years later, I want to rent it back to do the Numidian sequence because I want to put it as a seafront thing. I had to pay $1 million to rent my own set.
Yeah, I saw that coming. But, it's inflation. It's inflation.
Moroccans, man, they'll rule the world shortly.
But that gets me to a question about, kind of the environmental impact of movies. I used to think that sets were always destroyed. Beautiful things are made and then destroyed. Is there another way to do it? Is there a more sort of environmentally sensible way to make movies, perhaps, than
Reuse them.
Yeah.
Reuse them, store them. I mean, that
They can be
Sistine,
augmented as well.
Sistine Chapel set is still in Rome. It's in storage. People are going to shoot in the Sistine Chapel again.
It just needs to be built with reusability in mind.
Exactly.
If you don't approach it that way after the fact, then you're building shit out of styrofoam. And
Also,
let's get a little-
Coralie shot a movie that takes place in LA at home. That's environmentally good.
Yeah, we didn't have to fly. Yeah, we shot everything in France.
Whoa. I never would have guessed. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
we-
use of color and light, obviously, it was LA.
Yeah, well, we built the apartment, which was the most important decision because it's like maybe 70% of the film. And our main question is how we're going to do that view over LA, which is the main thing. And I knew to start with, I didn't want to shoot on green screen because it was going to be like 70 days in front of a green screen, which is hell, and you don't get to see what you have, unless until post-prod. For the actors, I think it's a nightmare. And then we researched, because it's a huge backdrop, whether we're going to do it with the backdrop, like the curtain, from the old time, or they now have like new LED screen when you can project a video. So we did some tests with my DOP, Benjamin Krakoun, and we were like, we felt like we needed to have something that is real, that is practical. And so even if it was scary because it was a huge like curtain that we didn't know until we have it on set if it was going to work, we decided to go for that. And I remember we did a few tests with the LED screen and the practical backdrop on a very small scale. And I discussed at the end of the day with my DP, and he said, you know what, I feel like I prefer the backdrop because it's more poetic. And he said, like, I feel it's the way we've done movies since the age of time. The old movies that I watched, they had this backdrop, and I feel, and I knew like this was the thing that convinced me that it would be the right way to do it. And I remember when the LA backdrop arrived in something like that, like a UPS delivery, because we took the photos remotely from LA, choosing the view. So when I'm here, it's funny because I'm saying, oh, this is a view from the apartment that we scouted, and it arrived, it was like that. And so we had to unpack it, let it go down for 48 hours, light everything. And I remember I entered the set, and I was like, oh my God, and I pushed a huge scream because I felt it was going to work. It was like so realistic and so...
It felt as fake as LA.
Artifice.
But me, I won't be like that, but we built everything like Ridley. I built as much as I could, and I don't want nobody to shoot there again. and we destroy everything. They take the wood, they recycle the wood, but all the sets. So is it environmental friendly? I don't know, but yeah.
But
I will
also
not start
your world is totally invented.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it
it's
cannot
your
be
child.
reused. I don't want it to be reused. I just, you know. But the vehicles, we keep the vehicles, we keep the costume, tons of costume.
How many vehicles you have left?
Now, right now, there are 3 or 4 ornithopters. Right?
Are you guys? What are you doing? I have a small parking lot. No, I mean, if you guys just have extras, then it seems.
You got one this weekend in your garden.
I would love a vehicle.
Ridley, what's Denzel Washington like to direct?
Next question.
I did the second film with him. I did American Gangster with him, so we kind of got used to each other there. But he changed all the time. He's probably one of the best actors we have today. And he just gets it in 2 seconds, doesn't want too much explanation. On the paper, got it, comes in, he said, you want to shoot it? I said, yeah, you got 4 cameras, do what you want.
Wow.
So, and so the beauty of multi-camera is that each scene is like a play. So the actors are completely freed up. So if you've got 2 actors in there who aren't acting, I said, you're on. Whatever, I'm watching you, whatever you want to add. So it's one big scene, theatrical scene. And it's fast, and so at the end of it, every actor is the virtuoso of himself. Finally, you can squeeze it so far, and then you've got to leave it to him or her, right? And if they're not going far enough, then I start shouting at them, but I never had to shout in my life. So they always deliver. And so Denzel is just fantastic.
I want to know what you all do with takes. Like, how many takes? Are you all like, I'll do 30 takes if that's what it takes?
What?
Or are you, like, do you just put it in the hands of 3? One?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's got 4 cameras.
yeah.
That doesn't count. That's a small thing.
He doesn't even need a take. In fact, he's just CGI the whole thing.
One of the best friends I've had was Al Pacino. He said, I hear you don't give me more than 4 takes. I said, you got as many as you want to. Because we had several cameras, he hadn't really experienced that before. He felt free. I said at the end of it, always, what do you think? I think you have it. He said, really? So you want to go again? No, I think we got it. Boom, 2 takes.
Well, I feel like maybe for you, Edward, because I feel like a lot of our films, there's like so much more motion going on. Like I feel like yours is like strictly like very photographic. Your actors.
Static.
Yeah, and obviously.
Yours too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but.
I do a lot of takes.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like 15 is a kind of a
16.
average. Yeah.
But you're also more. I think you have less coverage.
Yes,
in your
exactly.
movie. You're very sort of
One
you know,
camera,
one camera, then you have that top shot, and then this like 3 shots per scene.
Yeah, but I know what
I
Berger
have-
did 100 takes on boiling egg. That's psychotic.
Well,
I'm not gonna say
if you watch
I'm
it
gonna
doesn't
tell you
boil. That's why. I mean, everyone knows that.
And what about you?
My movie doesn't work quite that way because I have so much dialogue and so much POV of Rafe and so many people that he needs to interact with. Yours is like about this one person. You know?
Yeah.
So I just need much more coverage. And then I maybe do, it depends on the scene, but I would say if it's just like a shot on Rafe, it'll be like 2, 3, 4 maximum.
He's
And
amazing.
then, I mean, he's just great because, but also just trying things and maybe 4 maximum, maybe some very rare exception. I would say it's 5, but and then if it's a one taker, like a scene that is like 2 minutes, then more.
Yeah.
But like up to like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
But it's
until I
entirely
have
dependent
it.
on who your actor is. Rafe finds you can give it in 2 or 1.
I usually ask, Rafe, how do you feel? You want another one? Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he usually goes like, yeah, let's do another one. Let's
Well,
just
he's
try it.
virtuoso. Yeah.
And what about you? Because also with your, I think there is a whole technique things that, take some time.
But you've got a much bigger challenge in a way, because we work with, say, very good practiced actors. You're working with people who are doing something they've never done before.
Yeah, and it's all oneers.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
everything's a oneer.
Yeah.
Which
How
is
many
just
takes do you do then?
well, didn't have so much time, so kind of limited by the takes away from the next day or takes away from other things. I don't think we did more than maybe 4. I think I would have.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have done. But I mean, we had.
But they're just really good.
They're really good.
Kids are great.
Thank you. I mean, we had like Jomo Frey as DP, Sam Ellison, who you know, also camera operator.
Amazing operator.
Yeah, Brandon Wilson, Ethan Harisi. They came in like so open to play that whatever they did was so genuine because they weren't trying to like play a character. They were kind of being themselves as boys in that time. It just made it really, really smooth, I guess.
Do you have multiple cameras?
No, I
Just
hate
one, right?
Yes.
It feels like a one camera.
No, but
movie.
I know. no, stop it.
I mean, I was going to say I didn't know when I was
But
when I watched
I'm
your
a
movie.
monomaniac. I love to work on one thing at a time. I'm like Hakim. I love, but then I don't do a lot of takes. But
When I
what
watch
do-
your movie, I feel like where would the second camera go? I know.
but it's
Those
for
are
what
some- you can take it out. You can just rub it out.
Sure.
I hate that.
Did you guys, when you were making Blade Runner 2049, did you guys chat about that?
No,
Not at all.
Kept it right out of his way.
Yeah.
It was very elegant and just for the best of
I mean,
or the worst. I don't know.
So you don't do a lot of takes.
I don't like to do a lot of takes. I'm not aiming. If I have it on the first, I'll be comfortable. Say specifically with digital today, you see it. What moves me is sometimes there are specific actors that you say, okay, I get it, and the actor turns and says, can I do it again?
Yeah.
Like Javi Bardem, he wants to play. He
what
wants
do you
to
do
explore.
then?
I give it to him.
Yeah,
Javi Bardem, I would
same,
have fun.
same.
I will have fun. I mean.
Do you rehearse a bunch then?
No, I don't rehearse a lot. No,
Nice.
I have a lot of conversations prior the shoot. On the day, I don't want to have questions. I want on the shoot. It's very visceral. I don't want to have people talking to me about ideas on the day. I want, but in prep, I'm very open.
But I feel, if Javier Bardem comes and said, can I have another one? You're not going to go,
Yeah. But he looks like a kid.
go.
What's a seemingly small detail in your movie that was actually very important to you?
It feels like every second of a day of shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
It's the accumulation of the details.
It always goes through your comme ci, comme ça. That means, sorry. No, but I'll give you an example. I made a film called Martian. We invested in a desert at a 75-foot green screen in Budapest. I shot all of the stuff there. I fitted it to Jordan. I went to Jordan afterwards and photographed everything and fitted it. It's seamless.
Yeah, I know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So set is in Budapest, shoot in Jordan, where you have markers for everything that just goes.
You know what I heard? I heard that it was more expensive to make, I say this respectfully and funnily, more expensive to make Martian than to send a rover to Mars. Is that true?
Bullshit. No. And I think we cost about 80 million.
Really?
I'm sure yeah.
That's shocking.
Low or high?
Low.
Yeah.
I'm
I
very,
thought it was
I'm very
300 million
reasonable
or something.
there.
I guess you, yes. I mean,
I
it
didn't
feels huge. The scope of the movie feels huge.
The studio didn't realize it's actually a comedy. So it sat on the shelf for 2 years, and then they said, "Do you want to look at this?" And I read it. They said, "It's really funny." Funny? That was the first exchange of swords. It's a comedy, dude.
Yeah. Well, tell me, since we're talking about dealing with studios, what have you learned from dealing with studios or financiers? By the way, this is something your movie engages with a little bit metaphorically.
No comment.
Okay. How do you manage the relationship with the people?
No, I can.
Yeah.
I am continually amazed that people will give us money to do our dream. They got to be crazy. And so that is real trust. So I'm very respectful of that. So my G2 is $10 million under budget.
Yeah,
I move fast.
Yeah, you always on budget.
And but always respect that. Totally respect that.
Me too. I feel that they give you a box and you have to clean that
You
box.
better.
Yeah. And
I'll say I was like wildly surprised. I went into the entire process like deeply hesitant because I have like an art practice and
It's a good title, Deeply Hesitant. Very good title.
I mean, it's a mental state, my friend.
Yeah.
You know? Because I have like an art practice and like I'm just used to doing things on my own terms and like I don't want to make art and argue ever. That's not in my blood. And so the idea of working with the studio to do something always just for superficial reasons seemed like it'd be constrictive. But I was like left with a lot of hope. You know, I worked with Plan B, Anonymous Content, Orion, and Louverture Films, and like never did anyone question any of the ideas. And I know that they're fringe, you know? I know that they're gonna cost a lot. I know that they're gonna have to like say yes to things that they may not quite understand, which we were talking about with images. If you're making a poetic film, you have to be open to the idea that the meaning and the understanding will come after it's done, right? Like that's pretty hard. And for a studio to invest in that, I think was the biggest stress in that if it didn't work, it seemed like it would close down doors because it was such a big risk for them. So I had a really kind of great experience.
Yeah, but it's a I would say when you make a film, if it fails, it will close down doors. That's part of the game. So it will always be like that. Each film, you are always as good as your last film, and it's always like that. You know?
Yeah.
Not you, because
But maybe for others though, because like
As long as
For
the
regular human
No,
being.
as long as the film was good.
Yeah.
If it didn't play, but the film was good, that's what counts.
Yes.
But I got carte blanche imagination space in Colson Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize winning book. I don't know any other person of color my age, maybe Barry Jenkins with Underground Railroad, but like that opportunity doesn't exist, you know? And it has a lot to do with like more systematic
Who's the
reasons.
studio?
Plan B and Anonymous Content.
I was going to
have
say
the
same
rights.
producers as Barry's.
Yeah, exactly.
Who paid for it? Who was the studio?
MGM. It was a partnership with Orion.
Yeah.
Alana Miles Orion. Yeah. But yours was completely independent, right? Or relatively?
Yeah.
It wasn't even a US
Yeah,
production?
we'd done an international sale for the we sold the world for a very, very small amount of money. That made it almost impossible. But I was quite determined to be like, all right, we'll make it work. And on the domestic side, what's funny is that my partners on this film were incredibly supportive, and I didn't have any antagonists in this process. In the past, I've had quite a few, and this film was it was written as a sort of exorcism in response to a lot of what my wife and I had been through, because my wife is also a filmmaker and we write the films together. And we'd been through a lot the last decade, fighting a lot about money, because the thing is that I don't have a problem with the bottom line ever. I can make a movie with a shopping cart and a piece of string and two cups, no problem. But I don't want to be told how to move sand around in the box. So you give me that number, but don't tell me how to spend it. And because I'm very, very exacting. The film was 170 pages and it was shot in 33 days. And I had to be very, very precise, very organized. And like yourself, what you said, it rings true for me, that in the preparation, I'm inviting lots and lots of ideas. And I really, my crew, they prop me up. I don't know if there's an exception to the rule, but I didn't see a lot of great movies come out of COVID like those COVID movies that people did like on their iPhones at home. Not so great. And and so I really, especially after COVID, I mean, it was so clear to me that I need like real infrastructure. I need a lot of personnel. But what was so great about this process is that, when I would say to someone, listen, I promise you that we will not go into overtime, but we need a techno crane, because if I send a Steadicam operator walking backwards down a hill, then we're never going to make our day, and it's going to it's going to blow up in our face. So this movie went quite well for us because we had real support, and we didn't have a lot of money, but we had really a lot of faith, and we had a cast and crew that were all moving in the same direction.
We're going to start winding down, and Ridley, I've been to your office, and there's something in it that's striking to me. You may know what I'm talking about. You have something framed in your office. It's a review, a Pauline Kael review.
Pauline Kael, oh yeah.
Yes, esteemed New Yorker film critic Pauline Kael's 1984 review of Blade Runner, which she panned viciously. She hated that movie.
Yeah, it enters the realm of industrial espionage. You're destroying the subject before it's out. And she wrote this for the very posh
It was the New Yorker. Yeah, and she was the sort of dean of film criticism at the time.
I was kind of actually distressed, enraged. And so I wrote to the editor saying, if you hate me that much, just ignore me, don't write anything. I never got a reply. And then it was discovered in the Santa Monica Film Festival about 10 years later. There'd been one or two diehards who'd quite liked it when it came out. So they called up Warner's for the print, and they'd lost the negative. And so then they went to a drawer and pulled out the drawer and didn't look at it, sent it to the festival. It was minus the voiceover, had a bit of Vangelis, a bit of Jerry Goldsmith on it, and it ran. And that reignited the whole thing. And that's the craziness of Hollywood.
Well, yeah, what do you all take from that story?
What you take from it is you're your own critic. So I've framed it so I never read critique ever again, ever.
I read everything.
Me too.
Every letterbox.
I don't.
Everyone.
Isn't it? I mean, I don't.
It's hard.
I don't read any.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
What happens if they hate you? What happens if they hate it?
I try to build language to combat it.
Because
most of the...
Do you reply?
No, I thought about it many times. Not the time. But.
What you said, Ridley, is very important, because I think that when your movie comes out, you have to have your own perception of your work and where you stand, where you go next.
You went through it.
And nobody, because if people say it's a failure or you're a genius, I mean, you need to stay to keep your own perspective about your work, to be honest about where you stand and where you have to evolve. And that's that I think that relationship with the object is super
Ideally,
important.
don't read any critique.
No, absolutely. No, the positive as well as the negative. I don't want to read it. Equally dangerous, absolutely. Because it's going to hinder me from making my next one and thinking about my next one by continuing to think about the past.
But you don't make bad things, Edward. Edward, we know you don't. You don't have to act like you're like not doing great stuff.
You can only try by not reading what other people write or think about you.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think about the movie. Like, I invite you to my movie. Say, tell me what you think. Let's discuss it. I want to learn from you. That I find interesting.
And if someone says you're a genius, someone else will think the right opposite. You have the whole rainbow of opinions anyway. So
there's so many opinions. I mean, I can't worry about.
I think François Truffaut said everybody has two jobs: their jobs and film critics. So it's like everybody's.
But I think it goes with the question before, like keeping where you want to go and why you did the movie to start with, because you're always going to have Device's opinion. No one is never going to think your movies. Everyone is never going to be aligned anyway.
But what do you take from your reviews when you read everything? What do you take from it that is positive in a way for
when
you?
they're good, I'm so happy. Like it makes me feel so good. Yes, and of course, like if there are more that are good than more than that are bad, it changes the way you feel. But yeah, like each good review makes me feel so good and kind of, makes me feel I succeed to do what I wanted.
You want to hear a story about Cannes?
Yeah.
I did my first movie, cost $800,000, called The Duelist, right? You ever seen
Love
it?
that movie.
I've seen it.
Great movie.
And I was 40, I hadn't done a movie, and I was very successful in advertising, so I had the money to be the completion bond. I didn't get a fee. I got no fee, and I was a bond. So I'm now making, I approach Harvey Keitel, who says, are you out of your fucking mind? You want me to be a fucking Hazar? I said, yeah. So I had to sit for 3 months where Harvey finally agreed. Anyway, finished the movie, and then Putnam, who's my producer, said they want us to be the English entry at Cannes. I said, wow, that's good. So I'm at Cannes, and I'm approached by a very important gentleman who was on the committee, very important, a big American director, who's, I'm not going to say his name, who said, love your goddamn movie. The problem is the jury have been given 50 grand as bribery to actually vote for another film. And I'm like, what? And he said, yes. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I will create a prize for you to give you this film. I said, well, I didn't think I was going to get this far, so let's keep it going. He said, good man. I didn't get the Palme d'Or, but I got what they called the golden egg, okay? And ironically, the film didn't go to the guy who was paying them off. It went to two guys, brothers, Padro Padroni, the Tavianis. So that was, they earned it by having good film. So I thought, fuck, there's corruption even at this level. Couldn't believe it.
I thought you were gonna be like, and so I gave him $100,000, and that's how I got here. Scott free. I was like, we're actually.
RaMell, that is a perfect kicker. I have to wrap you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
a wonderful conversation. I appreciate it all so much.
We'll all get sued.
Thank you.